It's by truckers for truckers. This is the Channel 19 Experience. Let's hit the road.
Welcome back, everybody. This week as a guest, we've got Mike Barber from Truckers' Wealth. Mike, welcome to the show. Why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself to everybody, a little bit of your background and what your business does, and then we can jump into our topic of the day, which is around why truckers struggle to retire and what are some reasons that creates that challenge.
Thanks, Tony. It's good to be here. Appreciate you having me on. And I'm Mike Barber, president of Truckers' Wealth. We're a financial planning, retirement planning hub for truckers, exclusively for the trucking industry. And I've been in the business over 22, going on 23 years. But yeah, we help folks in the trucking industry. We help truckers save for retirement, save for the present, give them advice on where to put this or where to put that, and basically understand the trucking industry and try to take into consideration some of the issues that truckers run into and how to overcome those issues and make it better for them throughout their career and into retirement.
Yeah, that sounds great. And trucking, it's its own unique animal when it comes to the different programs and how companies treat drivers as employees. We've got a lot of independent contractors and so small business owners, which has its own challenges from a wealth management standpoint. And I've been a truck driver. I've worked for trucking companies and also working for technology companies for the last 10 years. There's definitely differences and even disparities in the types of things that get offered to various types of employees in these different industries. Definitely makes sense to have somebody who's focused on the trucker perspective in wealth management. Very cool.
Yeah, you know as good as anyone, some very unique issues that truckers have to go through throughout their career, whether they're owner operator, independent, company driver, they all have their challenges. Early on, I knew that you have to understand the industry to understand how to help the trucker. That's something me personally have made it my goal through my career. Yeah, you see a lot of different dynamics and a lot of very chronic dynamics too. I mean, a lot of chronic problems, but a lot of upside and a lot of problems that need to be addressed for sure.
Yeah, it's a joke that's gone around the trucking industry a long time before my time because I heard it from old timers, but there's some truth to it. There's like two ways to get out of trucking: die or go bankrupt. um, Retirement has been a challenging thing for a lot of people to get to that point in trucking, and also that trucking takes its toll on you, realizing it gets harder every year the older you get to continue to keep up that pace because it's just a physically demanding and challenging industry to be in. So managing yourself and managing your wealth is really important to get to the finish line that you're setting for yourself and what after that looks like for you.
It really is, and very important. And, you know, I think a lot of times truckers are kind of like lone wolves. You know, they're out there and they're just kind of fighting the battle. The truckers can do 99% of what the rest of us can't do. 99.9, really, I would say. Always kind of the forgotten heroes, especially in the States, here in America, but always have kind of tongue-in-cheek laughed at themselves and kind of been ridiculed because of some of their habits. Or for instance, they make a very good, most on average, you know, they make more than most. They're a demographic that make a lot of money. 70% of truckers retire broke. Teachers don't. That's not numbers for teachers or mill workers, or you can name any kind of occupation. Truckers seem to be the one and that's not a good thing. But like you said, you know, you're right. A lot of times it's become a running joke. I don't think it's funny. I'm one of those. I don't think it's funny. And when you look from, you know, from where I look, there's a lot that can be done about it. And we help people all the time. There certainly could be more. There's a lot of people that pass on that help. And it doesn't have to really be that way. A lot easier to take care of than the truckers may think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a startling number to hear. And at first you're like, oh, that's painful. But then when you mention it in context with like other occupations, teachers, government workers, and you're right, when you look at the scale of the amount of money, the average income across America is roughly in the somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000. And truckers are typically making above that line, so above average wage. Now, we're not talking about how much work it takes to get that money because they put in a lot of hours and they put in a lot of work
Absolutely.
to get it. But still, on average, truck drivers are making more than that. And there's plenty of them that are making significantly more. But when you look in light of that, how many truck drivers are not where they want to be when it comes to being able to retire and retiring successfully, it's something that a company like yours can try to help address.
Yeah, it's a learned, I think it's a learned habit. Obviously, everybody struggles with, nobody likes to, finances are something that everybody will struggle with. And you're right, everybody has their own little problems that they have to address. And that's really what I think a lot of times it's a learned habit. They go from generation to generation. You see a lot of that, just
Yeah.
generational. Well, I had nothing when I was growing up, and they never break the cycle. But the good news is I see more and more people that I talk to on a daily basis that say, I'm tired of this. I'm tired. This is what my father did and my grandfather did. We've been in trucking for 4 generations, and they want to be the one to pass on wealth to, or have some sort of legacy that to where the generation after them has it better than they do. A lot of people
Yeah.
talk about that and doing it's another reason, but a lot of times it's very simple things, and we'll get into that. But some very simple things that truckers can do to help with that.
Well, let's jump into
Yeah,
your 5 reasons why getting to retirement is a struggle for truckers.
the number one is lack of financial education, and that's probably typical, again, not just to truckers, a lot of people. That's well, I don't know what that means. I'll get to that later. It's very easy to put off. You don't wake up in the morning going, I think I'll check on, see what a good retirement strategy or a saving strategy would be for me today. We're just busy accumulating and trying to accumulate and doing life, and especially a trucker schedule, you just don't have time to do that. The lack of financial education, the problem is many truckers, they're not aware of what they can do. They would do them. It's not that they're against all of this. They would most definitely take action and get it done, but they don't really know where to go, who to call, the tools that are out there. They really don't know them and what's available to them. I think that's something that we work with truckers consistently on is that, hey, here's your options. Let's look at the options. What option do you like the best? And it's really basically that easy. They don't teach finances in CDL school, right?
Right.
I think that, or in elementary school or anywhere else, they probably need to. We can have that another show on that. People generally don't know what to do, and it's
Yeah.
hard for a trucker when he's out on the road trying to get something delivered or pick something up, and he's on a deadline. He's not really thinking about, got to stop and talk to Mike or Truckers Wealth. You have to really you have to go where they are. Something that I knew early on with Truckers Wealth, we have to go to the trucker and make it easy for him when he stops, when he has time. And
Yeah.
that's what we're able to do, which is a big deal. Really, if you're not able to do that, Tony, they're just out on the road riding around. They don't have a person. They have nobody to call. They have nobody to talk to about what we're talking about now. That's why really the importance, I think, of what we're talking about is the financial education part of it is huge.
I think, and I was talking with the Feathersons about this a few weeks back, right? Of just, and you touched on it a little bit ago around the generational stuff, right? A lot of truck drivers, we either grew up in trucking or we grew up in some other working class blue collar background, right? You don't see a
Mhm.
lot of people from bankers and lawyers and Wall Street backgrounds going into the trucking industry. We came from farming, we came from other blue collar backgrounds. There's nobody internally in your circle to lean on to get this sort of education. Bankers' kids learn about banking and finance. Doctors' kids learn about financial things. Lawyers and their kids learn about finance. But on the blue collar side, there's probably not a lot of people in each of our circles that can tell you okay, they can teach you how to survive because that's
It-
what they've been doing for their lives, your parents, your grandparents. What a lot of times there wasn't anybody who broke through the surviving barrier to get into what do I do with wealth because they didn't have to worry about that. They were just surviving. And so,
Yeah.
I think that kind of plays into your point here is like, well, if you're trying to break into a new level of the game, which is having wealth, you have to find education somewhere. And it's oftentimes not in the circle of people that you already know.
It's true. So many times when I talk to truckers on a daily basis, they're so open and they want the help. They're glad to be talking to you. It's not like they don't want this. They do. Their heart is in the right spot. Um,
Yeah,
and
but
and
who do you
that's what.
ask, right? That's
But who do I ask? And another thing too, when we talk about uh, the trucking industry, and I have a lot of friends that are truckers, and through the years, and just helping them with their finances and things of that nature, they don't trust everyone. You really have to earn their trust for them to reach out to you or to give you any information or to follow your direction. They have to understand that, hey, this guy's not just trying to make a buck off of a trucker again or the trucking industry. Early on in my business and my work with truckers, that was huge. I had to kind of become a part of the family before anybody would give me the time of day. And once you gain that trust, it's yeah, it's a great thing. And at Truckers Wealth, we try to be that family member, that person that you can go to for whatever you need.
Yeah, a lot of people have sold a lot of bills of goods to truckers over the years, so there's
Yeah.
definitely a trust and a hesitation to, and then I mean, money in and of itself is a whole nother animal, right? Yeah.
They work hard for their money and they just don't trust it with anyone. And a lot of times what that breeds or what happens is procrastination and just kind of sitting on it, and then it's too late. The main fix to that whole thing is just what we just said. Find someone who understands the trucking industry, period. If they don't understand the trucking industry, then they don't understand you. Your bank, usually the local bank, Miss Mary may be the nicest lady in the world and can help you with a checking account or a savings account, has been good over the years, but she knows nothing about what truckers have to go through on a daily basis. Most people don't. Most people don't make it their business to cater to truckers' finances.
And even the
But
fluctuation of it, right? Like most people don't have these various fluctuations in their pay, right? Whether you're a driver or a contractor, right? Of,
yeah,
activity-based pay, getting paid by the mile. And by the way, yeah, if our payroll cutoff is Thursday, so if you did a 1,800-mile load that delivers Friday, your paycheck is going to be pretty light one week and super heavy the next week. And I mean, these are all challenges that truck drivers have to manage that a lot of the rest of the country, from a wage earner standpoint, they have relatively consistent pay.
Tony, people don't understand it. People think they look at a trucker making all this money he's riding around in a truck all day. A lot of it depends on how far he can get and how fast he can get there, and how he gets paid can fluctuate. The fluctuations, like you said, are can be immense. So it's kind of like feast and famine. Some months are feast, and some months are famine. Some months you may be, man, Mike, yeah, we got to get this thing started. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And then famine may come and it's like they ghost
Yeah.
Mike or you don't hear from him again.
Yeah.
Um,
Lots
because
of
maybe
cycles in trucking.
a lot of cycles, and we understand that, but having someone who understands that is very rare for the trucker. They just kind of shake their head like, you don't understand what I'm talking about when they're talking to the regular people in the financial world. That's why we're, Truckers Wealth, we're the only one. We're it, which is pretty amazing in itself too, when you think
Yeah.
about as many truckers there are out there.
Well, what's number two on your list?
Yeah, number two would be lack of consistent savings. We'll go to that one. And really the problem is many truckers have, like what we just said, irregular income. They put off saving because they prioritize certain needs and wants. And that is a huge, that's big. And a lot of that I think is, like what we just talked about was just the irregular pay schedules. And the The fix to that, Tony, is, and it's the number one fix. It's the fix, okay? You got to have scheduled automatic withdrawals. Basically, you got to set up automatic contributions, and they got to be automatic. So when you're riding down the road, it's happening. Some people push back, not just truckers. Some people don't, they like to have a little bit more control. But the days of writing a check or putting money in a jar or they're gone. These things have to be done automatically. Doesn't mean that you lose freedom or that you lose control. It's just the most efficient way to do it. When you can turn in certain accounts that we help truckers with, for instance, a tax-free wealth plan, it's built for truckers. And it's why we specialize in products like that. But it's tax-free and you just contribute to it. And it just accumulates. It's not connected to the market, so you can't lose anything. It's just accumulating. Very popular with truckers. And the main thing, though, is you have a certain amount, whatever amount you're comfortable with, automatically going in each month. Whether it's $100, $200, $150, and that it just sits there and accumulates. So, like I always tell people, we can turn $200 a month into $700 or $800 or $1,000 a month for the rest of your life in retirement. Making things automatic, that's the best thing for them. It's the fix.
And there's a momentum
Huge
to
for
it,
truckers.
right?
Oh yeah,
No,
when you
there's
start
a,
seeing it,
you see it and you start to see it grow, and then
yeah,
it starts to gnaw at you a little bit like, how do I make it grow a little bit faster? Maybe I could do another $10 a month.
it's
Maybe.
funny, and you're exactly right, Tony. When people start those out, they'll talk to me and they'll say, "Well, Mike, I think I better start at $100 a month." That's fine. Once they get their statement or they see their statement for the first time, they go, "Ooh, hey, Mike, I can probably do 150. I like to maybe put 150, and I've got this money coming, a little extra money from this account, and I'm going to put it in there. Can I do that?" Absolutely. That's that motivation. When you start seeing it grow, they're so used to somebody taking from them. When you
Yeah.
start seeing it going up, it gives you that momentum and that motivation to, man, I like this. Let's keep it going.
Well,
And
one
plus
of the
peace of
things,
mind.
well, I'm just about to jump on that same topic, right? And when you look at, and what kind of article you look at, right? Some of the articles that talk about how the life expectancy of a truck driver is in the low 60s, right? When you think about mental health or physical health of truck drivers. And there's a component of that is money related stress. And that adds into the factors of stress and hypertension and things like that. But this is your defense against anxiety, is knowing that you've been putting money aside and you have a nest egg for long-term retirement. Like it weighs on you when you're not doing these things, and at least knowing you're doing something on a regular basis kind of gives you a little bit of peace of mind, like you said.
It's a good feeling. And yeah, when you have, like you said, when you know something's working in your favor and you're making that effort, when you're riding around, that's a good feeling. What's not a good feeling is when you're riding around going, all this stuff's going through your mind. Man, I should have done this. I wish I'd done that. Man, I'm too old. I can't, there's no sense in doing it now. Might as well just, bury me in the backyard and have at it. All those kind of negative thoughts. And I know this isn't a mental health session or anything like that, but it plays a huge role in our finances and our just overall well-being. Is like you said, there's that financial part, there's that mental health, and there's that physical health. And we like to think at Truckers Wealth that we incorporate or help you in a little bit of all of that. But I tell you, that peace of mind that you have, knowing that you're making the effort and it's working, and you're not worrying about losing it, and knowing that if an emergency came up, there's something you can pull from, man, that's worth a lot. Peace of mind is worth a lot.
Sure is. Well, what's number 3 on your list?
Yeah, number 3 would be no employer sponsored plans for a lot of truckers. We're talking about owner operators and independent. They often don't have access to 401ks or pension plans. And that's not just truckers, right? Pensions
Yep.
have kind of gone to the wayside. We really don't have those. Companies don't offer those like they once did. And then you have 401k plans that really never turned out to what we thought they were going to be. Sometimes we're a little handcuffed in those, can't get to them till we're 59 and a half, but not even having any kind of plan,
Well,
is
yeah,
a
when you look
major.
at like 95% of trucking companies have less than 20 trucks. And so most small companies don't have any sort of employer sponsored plan, like you mentioned, or do 401k, even have a plan set up, or even do anything like an employee match of 1%,
Yeah,
2%, 5%, like you see in other industries.
it's true, Tony. And especially for, like just kind of going back what we were talking about, you got, guys and girls thinking, well, man, what do I do? Hey, I just better try to make as much money as I can, and hopefully I'll have something left over. It's hard to get, your money to keep up with inflation, let alone have anything left over in retirement. So you have to have a vehicle that you park your money in that's going to accumulate, right? Knowing that there's such an animal out there, that's a big deal. Doesn't matter what age. We talked about it before. It's like that old Chinese proverb, yeah, I should have done it 20 years ago, but the next best time is right now. Most everything we talk about, oh man, I wish I'd done that 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. But the next best time is right now. And it can only make it better for you down the road.
Here's what your options are today. Here's what your options were 10 years ago. Some of those aren't on the table anymore, but here's some new ones that come to you because you're 50 or 55 or 60 or whatever the case might be.
Exactly right, Tony. You'd be amazed. I think that's getting back to that peace of mind. And then you have folks out there too that are truckers that have 401k plans and they have retirement savings and they don't know what to do with it as they get into retirement. They end up having all of it in maybe certain places, not as diversified maybe as you'd like to be. You have to take care of that income because you lose an income, you got to replace that income. But knowing the best way to do that and having somebody that you can trust that can help you with that is huge. And it doesn't cost you a dime. It's not something that, it doesn't cost anything. You don't pay me a dime. We help truckers and it doesn't cost anything. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I wonder what that cost. Well, it doesn't cost anything. But it will gain you, dollars in your pocket. I always like to tell truckers, okay, well, how much does this cost? And I just, I tell them that's what it would, it doesn't cost you a dime. And they still look at you like, what's the catch? And there really is no catch. It's just the way it works. So in essence, you're making a phone call to put money in your pocket, not to spend money, but to put money in your pocket.
Yeah, or
Is
get
what
that
we do at
money
Truckers
working.
Wealth. Yeah, get it working. I mean, it's putting money in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's the best way to go for sure.
And especially in trucking, we've got high turnover rates. People switch companies a lot. And if you do happen to, let's say you spent your time at one of the bigger fleets that has some sort of 401k or 401k match, so you contributed to it, but you move on from that company, even if you go to another big fleet that has a similar, we tend to have some accounts that just end up sitting over unmanaged. No, you haven't looked at them for years. So, being
Right.
able to reach out to somebody like Truckers Wealth and you over there, Mike, and go, hey, what should I do? How
Yeah.
do you keep that money in the game? You set it aside. Let's keep it focused on your legacy and your financial
Mhm.
well-being later in life. Let's not take a tax hit because they automatically are going to write you a check after 1 year dormancy or something like that.
Yeah.
Just staying active in your management of
Yeah.
your wealth.
It's very common, and you're right. All those questions that kind of go into it, having somebody that can give you advice, the added value, being able to send your employees to or have them talk with someone, and we do a lot of that. That's worth a lot. Truckers want that. They want somebody to pamper them a little bit. Give me added value. So I always encourage when I talk to a CEO of a trucking company, or even if you're smaller and you have a few drivers, just to be able to offer them a service is huge. And especially if it doesn't cost anything,
Right.
makes sense, can be the difference in them staying with you or not.
For sure. Well, what you got for number 4 on your list, Mike?
Yeah, number four, high debt and poor credit management, which nobody is perfect at that, right? So it's not just a trucking thing. I think we all fall short or have issues. I think the problem is truck payments are a lot. You got maintenance costs, you've got credit card debt because like we mentioned before, some months are really good, some months are not so good. Feast and famine. So you've got money that's kind of strung out for the future to pay for this, that, or the other. And I think the main thing, you have to create a simple debt payoff plan, something simple. We can help you with that at Truckers Wealth. But having again, an automated, in a perfect world, something automatic is good for truckers. Something that pays it down. I'll go back again to the peace of mind. Man, when you have a plan, even if it's just a little bit, it makes a huge difference in your whole mindset, your whole well-being, and your pocketbook. We can help you with getting you on the right track.
Yeah, it does take time. I've been in a spot a couple times in my life where I had to dig my way out of some holes I got myself into, whether it's buying a fancier car than I needed and could afford, or
Fastball.
whatever the case might be, right? Bigger TV than I needed or could afford.
I'll
But
get you in that. Yeah.
yeah, but you set up a plan, you're right, and set up some milestones, mile markers for yourself to go, yep, in 3 months I want to be here, and in 6 months I want to be here, and in a year I want to be at the finish line that I set for myself to knock off this bill, this credit card, this debt, whatever it is. You're right. The peace of mind of knowing, like waking up today going, okay, yes, I'm in debt, but I have a plan and I executed the plan yesterday. I'm going to execute the plan today and it will get solved on the course that we've set. And you can relax a little bit and go, just execute the plan, just run the play, as Bill Belichick would say, just run the play.
Just run the play. And it sounds simple, but it's not always real easy. But having that, just having that little plan may not seem like a lot, but just start something. Just start it. It's amazing with that, how that can help you.
Yeah, and just like we talked about kind of momentum and the snowball building when you're saving money, it tends to happen too when you're eliminating debt. You get impatient. You're like, you know what? The plan was to do 100 extra a month on this one to get it paid off in a year, but by God, if I do 150, I can knock it off 4 months earlier. Let's see if we can do 150 and get it done in 8 months instead of 12 months.
Yeah. But also with your savings plans and what we're talking about at Truckers Wealth, those are we all incorporate those plans with companies that are very trucker friendly. I do the shopping for you.
Right.
And that makes a big difference, their trust, and it makes a big difference in your pocketbook. It allows you to continue instead of stopping something and it's gone.
Yeah. Well, one thing that truckers are good at that a lot of people are not, which is accomplishing long-term objectives. When you talk to most people who are not truckers, who have never been a trucker, when you tell them like, listen, this week, I'm going to go from Memphis to LA and back, it
You
blows
do
their
it.
mind, right? They're like,
Yeah.
I can't fathom like I drive 20 miles to work and it seems like forever. Like I couldn't fathom what it's like to accomplish the mission of going from Memphis to Los Angeles. Well, same thing with debt, either and wealth management, building wealth and or eliminating debt. It seems like an insurmountable journey. It seems like a trip from Memphis to Los Angeles, but truckers, we're good at accomplishing Memphis to Los
Oh,
Angeles. So, but you know that you can't get to Oklahoma until you go through Arkansas. So,
that's right.
one state at a time, one mile marker at a time, and that's how you do both those things.
Yeah, you're so right, Tony. Truckers don't give themselves enough credit either.
So what's number 5 on your list?
Yeah, number 5 would be something we started talking about is health issues impacting work longevity. And obviously truckers, a lot of wear and tear through the years, a lot of bad food, sleepless nights. So it's something that cuts retirement planning short in some cases. But that's where having a plan, you want to have a plan that solves for those issues. When we talk about those issues, I always advise truckers disability insurance. That's really when we help truckers with a lot of insurance as well. And a lot of it is types of insurance that has living benefits to where they don't have to die to use it.
Sure.
And they'll say, well, I didn't know that was available. Yeah. Accidental insurance, disability, critical illness, all of those things, not only for truckers, those are things that can ruin any retirement. And I don't care if you're well, maybe Warren Buffett's all right, but yeah, that kind of money. But I'm just saying, even wealthy people, if you've stayed in the hospital recently, you know the cost. And if you have elderly parents or have been through that, you know what that can do to a savings account, a retirement account, a bank account. Taking the bull by the horns and having something in place that you don't have to worry about that. Again, peace of mind. That would be the fifth thing would be the father time, right? He's undefeated, and just trying to have some things in place that buffer yourself to where stuff like that, it won't matter that much or it won't hurt that much.
Yeah, and even having a plan like that that's outside your employer, because most employers, I mean, you have certain coverages, especially if you're an employee, as far as workman's comp or an injury or something, disability that happens while you're on the job. But, there's things that happen outside of the job. You don't want to be caught without a plan. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, in America, so much is tied to your employer, and it puts us at risk in various
yeah,
stages of our lives and careers that having something outside of our employer relationship is a good idea.
yeah. You're right, Tony. You hit it right on the head. A lot of times, especially truckers, they'll say, "Well, I've got insurance through my employer," but as soon as they, when they retire or when they change jobs, it's gone. And in most cases, and they don't have that forever. And the older they get, so having something on a private scale um, is huge. And a lot of times the types of insurance they have only covers them for work related, like you said, work related injuries, or a lot of times those don't happen on the job. They happen just in daily life. Maybe something small, but we don't want something small to turn into something huge. So that's why it's important to have those plans incorporated where you kill two or three birds with one stone, and having an advisor that can help you with that. Um, and that's what
Absolutely.
we try to do.
Well, awesome, Mike. I really appreciate running through the list with you. You and I have been talking, and we've got a lot more conversations that we plan to have and share information. Why don't you tell everybody how they can get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about
Yeah,
kind of where they're at and where they're trying to get to with their wealth management?
yeah. All you have to do, Tony, is just go to Truckers Wealth. You can Google Truckers Wealth, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. But our website address is truckers-wealth.com. And go there. There's a little contact form. Just go to the contact form and send it in to us, and we'll get back to you. In most cases, I'll get back to you personally, and we'll just have that conversation. If we can help you, certainly we will. Most of the time we can. You're not paying me anything. I'm free, but it can be the best phone call or contact form that you send in or fill out. Takes about a minute to do, so it's not hard. You can do it from the road. We try to come to you. We use a lot of virtual Zoom, phone call on your time. And that's very important to take 10 or 15 minutes here and there while you're waiting for something or when you've got some downtime. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Tony. Man, I appreciate you having me on.